Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Dianna Emerson. Today we're listening to Crime Beat, and this is for No Reason, the murders of Dianna and Richard.
Tonight, a 911 call leads investigators to a gruesome crime scene.
There's a trail of blood coming down the steps. There's blood all over the floor now.
A couple attacked in their Vancouver home.
She just said, Diana's dead. And she cried. And I just couldn't believe it.
And the killer's stunning defense.
We're not dealing here with a psychopathic or a sociopathic personality.
And now, here's Romina Dea with For No Reason, the murders of Dianna and Richard.
The back door is open. I think there's blood everywhere. I think I need someone to come over. I'm going to stay at the house. I don't think I should go in. I don't know. I'm going to assume he needs police and ambulance now. Oh.
A catastrophic crime scene.
And as I got closer to the stairs, there was a very bloody footprint on one of the steps.
Front door is locked. Back door is open. There's a trail of blood footsteps coming down the steps.
The 911 caller, calm but shaken, as he details the evidence right in front of him.
And for what it's worth, man, there's a knife in the front pathway. It's in a plastic cover, right? But what kind of made me go around back is there's also a hatchet on the front yard with, it looks like drops of blood.
Anthony Purcell telling his story for the first time.
And I remember being shocked or being drawn at how bloody that shoe print was. That you could almost make out the shoe, the orientation of the footprint. And in my mind, I could tell that shoe print was facing, like, exiting the house.
Purcell's got instinct to go inside. He gets out of his wheelchair and slowly starts the climb up the back steps.
And I remember yelling out, "It's Anthony, and I'm coming into the house." And so I opened the door and walked into the house.
I peek inside. Looks like there's blood all over the floor now. I hope I'm overreacting. I hope it's just, I don't know.
I don't know the words. I don't have the words to describe the state of the house, the struggle that happened in the house. There was a lot of blood, and you could see signs of struggle. It was at that moment I knew I was in a crime scene.
We start with breaking news in Vancouver, where homicide detectives are investigating what appears to be two suspicious deaths in a home.
The killings, barbaric. A married couple in their 60s murdered in their home. Vancouver police initially say the public is not at risk. 24 hours later, an about face.
We haven't been able to discover a clear motive in this event. We don't know if it's targeted. We don't know if it's a random act. And that's why we're coming forward and just reminding the public to remain vigilant, report suspicious activity to us. Let us filter it out. Let us decide whether or not something's suspicious. But if you see something that just doesn't feel right in your gut, or you feel that your safety is at risk, call 911 immediately.
The community's sense of security obliterated. Residents terrorized as they wait for police to reveal the identities of the victims.
Tonight, disturbing development. The warning to the public as police identify the victims of a double homicide.
Dianna Ma Jones, a highly respected and award-winning occupational therapist, is the first victim. It's a member of her work family, Purcell, who discovers the gruesome scene.
I'm ever in touch with her? Oh, I was getting her work yesterday. A lot of co-workers were surprised that she hadn't called in sick. She's not on vacation. It's very uncharacteristic of her. And was there anything like suspicious or anything prior to like what happened that made you like want to go check on her, or did she say anything, or? No, nothing to any of our knowledge. No, zero. More of a concern. Do you know if this lady has any history of suicidal ideation? Not to my knowledge.
The saddest part of the whole story is not just what we as friends or colleagues of Dianna lost, but the community as a whole. Dianna was a pioneer in her industry.
Dianna Ma Jones has demonstrated creativity and innovative problem solving throughout her career.
Devoted to her clients and her husband, Richard Jones, who suffered from debilitating health problems. The 68-year-old is the second murder victim. The couple had been married for 40 years.
She would go home and try things on Rick, her husband, to see if they would work, or make him be a guinea pig. Our clients deserve that passion, and she gave it to them every day for 30 plus years. And yeah, that's inspiring. Yeah, she loved her job right up to the last day.
News of the crushing loss spreads quickly. A second work colleague who dances with Ma Jones notifies the rest of the dance team.
She just said Diana's dead, and she cried. And I just couldn't believe it.
It simply does not make sense to Jan Kaner, one of Ma Jones's closest friends.
That I was totally in shock. But then, of course, I thought, well, how? Like, what happened?
Ma Jones, 64 years young, was with her tap team, her dance family, for more than 2 decades.
Your mom has the way.
One final rehearsal, September 26, 2017, the night of the killings. After a successful practice for the big performance the next evening, Ma Jones packs up and leaves. Donna Martinson, a retired Supreme Court justice, remembers saying goodbye.
We were chatting, and she was so full of energy and life, and then off she went, and I saw her drive her car away.
A quick stop for groceries at Costco before heading home. Ma Jones's husband, who uses a walker, is last seen at the liquor store before strolling back to the house. Ma Jones parks her vehicle out front, unloads the groceries, and goes inside. The killer hiding behind a tree.
Coming up. Piecing together the couple's final moments, and the hunt for a killer begins. A man calls 911 after finding blood and signs of a struggle at a coworker's house. The home belongs to a Vancouver couple in their 60s, Dianna Ma Jones and Richard Jones. It's September 2017. And now, here's Romina Dea with For No Reason, the murders of Dianna and Richard.
I've spoken to the uniform members that arrived on scene in response to the 911 call. They're still, to this day, I would say, traumatized at what they saw inside.
The team commander of the Vancouver police investigation, astounded by the level of violence. We have agreed to conceal the staff sergeant's identity because of his current unit.
They describe it as a horror movie. One of the worst things they've come across in their combined 100 years of policing service. They still talk about it today. So it was a very graphic, very horrific scene for the members that first arrived on scene. Obviously, they knew right away something had gone very, very wrong.
The killer enters through the front door, slits the throat of Ma Jones, then hacks and slashes her husband more than 100 times.
They saw lots of blood, pools of blood that was drying. Obviously scenes of some sort of a struggle, drag marks. Basically, the entire floor, walls was spattered of blood. They followed the drag marks into the bathroom, and where they found two bodies in the shower stacked up on top of each other.
It appears Ma Jones dies quickly after her carotid artery is sliced right inside the front door. According to the evidence, her husband suffers massive blood loss. The killer continues cutting even after Jones is dead.
All over his body, back and front, legs, arms, head, torso. I don't know if there's a part of his extremities that were not touched. I believe that. Certainly, if he was conscious at the time, he would have been in lots of agony and pain. There's no question.
The killer stops for a moment, opens the fridge, eats a peach, and drinks some milk. The suspect grabs $30, some bananas, and the keys to the Kia. He's gone.
There seemed to be no rhyme or reasoning. I mean, here's someone who committed 2 brutal murders and then decided to have something to eat before they left. And so, you're thinking that that person would have a history, that there may be some profile out there that matches this behavior.
From what we saw, it seemed very personal in nature, some sort of grudge, maybe some sort of long-term dispute where emotions would, have got to a point where there was this extreme violence. We thought maybe this is someone who had suffered a significant mental crisis that obviously was not operating, in a normal world at the time.
Ma Jones, still wearing her ring and watch when her body is discovered. TVs, laptops, jewelry, untouched.
Robbery or break and enter did not seem to be the motive. My belief is that he put a lot of thought into what he was going to do and how he was going to do it. He maybe didn't think through sort of how he was going to leave and exit and things like that. That obviously led us to some evidence, key evidence.
DNA discovered at the crime scene, a crucial lead. Investigators run the sample in the National Police Database.
We had an unknown male DNA. There was no match to any other crime scene or any other match to any person on the DNA databank.
The strongest link to the killer, the bloody hatchet left on the lawn.
And the barcode from that was still on the hatchet was identified, and they were able to go and identify the very store, the Canadian Tire store, that it was purchased from.
The suspect captured on CCTV footage, purchasing what's later described in evidence as a kill kit, a hatchet, baseball hat, and gardening gloves. The cash sale just 2 weeks before the slayings. But who is he?
Obviously, getting him identified, purchasing the items at the Canadian Tire gave everybody a jolt of adrenaline, and no question, we needed that because we were tired. But we were driven anyways, and there's no doubt in my mind that we were going to catch this guy. It was just going to be a manhunt.
With only an image to go on, police bombard the area. More than 240 officers, over 1,000 businesses and residences canvassed.
It really was a whodunit. We had no idea. We had no leads. We were very, very diligent and did an extensive video canvass, hoping that we would identify perpetrator, suspect, and we gathered thousands of hours of video over a number of weeks.
The investigation, more than $500,000. A key focus, finding the victim's vehicle.
We actually had two crime scenes here. We had the residence of Mr. and Mrs. Jones on, and we also had their vehicle was taken, and we put out, a bolo be on the lookout for a vehicle. Within 12 hours, we located that vehicle dumped, which was only 7 blocks away from the Ma Jones residence. We were able to look at the picture that we obtained from the surveillance video at the Canadian Tire and started to review the video of the persons of interest that we had developed to this point. Immediately, we identified that this person was seen in the area of the dump vehicle right after it was dumped. He is caught on a number of different surveillance cameras moving through about a 2 square block area.
So concentrated surveillance around the clock was placed in the area. We just saturated the area with surveillance. And this isn't willy-nilly. This is structured surveillance in an effort to identify the individual. So these surveillance members were provided with, if you will, the picture of the suspect and the description of the clothing that the individual was wearing and what they had purchased.
We just had probably a 2 square block by 2 square block area that he could live in. So we deployed our covert surveillance resources so that we would not alert the perpetrator that the police were on to him.
Then, just 1 month after the murders, the surveillance team gets a hit. Strike Force wrapping up their shift when a member sets eyes on who he believes is the suspect.
I remember getting briefed the next day. And as I said to you earlier, is that we were sitting, they were discussing, they'd been sitting in their set for however many hours, and they were thinking, okay, this is time to call it a day or a night. And there he was, right in front of them. I remember the investigators being elated. Like it was like, this is the break we were looking for all along.
To prove he's the killer, police must get a sample of their suspect's DNA. But how? That's coming up. A Vancouver couple is viciously attacked and murdered in their home. A knife and hatchet found at the scene. But the motive is still unclear. Here's Romina Dea with For No Reason, the murders of Dianna and Richard.
The surveillance team follows the suspect to the bank, where his identity is finally revealed.
We were able to identify that this person was Rocky Rambo Way Cam.
25-year-old Rocky Rambo Waynam Cam is now the prime murder suspect. Rocky Rambo, not a nickname, it's his birth name, given by his parents.
It was like, thank God. I mean, it was like, this because what if? You can't help but look at something like this and go, what if this was just someone traveling through town? What if this was just someone staying with someone for a night or two and we would never be able to find him? And so all these resources ultimately paid off.
Paid off, but police still need to match Cam's DNA to the crime scene. The victims, strangers to the killer.
Immediately started running him through our data banks. What we found is that Mr. Cam had no police history in Vancouver, had only a traffic accident in Alberta, and other than that, had absolutely no history either with our mental health teams, our police in any way, shape, or form.
You're thinking that this is someone that's had a history of violence. Perhaps, they've been crossed paths with the police because of mental health issues. Nothing. So you go into this situation, you have to be open-minded. You can't go in with television.
What was your biggest fear?
Oh God, that there was someone else that could have been involved. That he could have been purchasing this for someone else. That the DNA wouldn't match. The DNA from our crime scene would match his.
we really needed to link Mr. Cam to our crime scene. And the only way we were going to do that is to obtain his DNA. And we had to do this, obviously, covertly.
Covertly, but how? Police encounter a major obstacle.
Mr. Cam did not come out of his house very often. Of the 12 days of surveillance that we had on him, 24 hours a day, he came out of his residence 3 times. So where we would normally obtain cast-off DNA was not an option in this case. Obviously, we had public safety considerations. We couldn't wait days and days and days waiting for him to go to a restaurant or go to Starbucks to, discard a coffee cup or some eating utensils. We had to be more creative in trying to obtain his DNA without alerting to him of the investigation.
An undercover sting is launched.
Thankfully, Mr. Cam came out of his residence one evening and followed a similar routine than he did previously. And he went to the grocery store.
Waiting for Cam, a nice female officer wearing a fake cast, according to a source. Police not prepared to discuss details, but they walk us through the unsuspecting operation.
We had a police officer in plain clothes talk to him and ask if he could do a favor and help her with opening up a water bottle and a pill container. From that, we were able to obtain Mr. Cam's DNA. We were fortunate that Mr. Cam was willing to help her. It wasn't an unusual request, something that you probably would do if you got asked to help someone as well. That were having trouble opening up a water bottle or a pill container.
The strategy was one that's worked before, and at the end of the day, he was prepared to listen to some young woman that approached him, who was very friendly, and it's amazing what some guys will do if they're asked.
This is Global News Hour at 6.
Some breaking news in an unsolved double homicide, an arrest and charges in connection with the murders of a couple in Vancouver's Marpole neighborhood.
Sophie, a 25-year-old Vancouver man is now facing murder charges. 6 weeks after the killings, Cam is arrested at his home, less than a kilometer away from the victim's house. He's charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. The community relieved there's been an arrest, but still in the dark as to why. What is the motive? The suspect has a university degree from Alberta. He moves to Calgary from Hong Kong when he's a teenager. Cam has only been in Vancouver for 4 months.
When I heard the details that this individual was, I believe he has his undergrad in economics, couldn't find employment, was in a rooming house on gravel, 900 meters away from the victims, and his kind of fame is that he likes to play video games. It's just like, what? This is a complete shock that this was the profile of the individual.
We uncover where Cam lives and go to his house to find out more.
Can you tell us anything about Rocky Rambo?
He was a nice guy, and I guess he was. Oh, but get off my property!
Cam's roommate and landlord asked us to leave. We're in the process of doing so when things turn violent.
We're leaving. Don't do anything.
Hey! We're leaving. Just let go.
The suspect enters the interrogation room.
Okay. What type of snack would you like? Any more like what? Well, I think the sort of stuff we'll have will be like chocolate bars or chips or that type of thing, or sure, chocolate bars, like a granola bar or.
Cam relaxed. He appears almost embarrassed when the origin of his Hollywood name comes up.
Okay, and your full name, Rocky Rambo Way Cam.
Yes.
Yeah, you're laughing. Why are you laughing?
I don't like that.
Oh. You don't like all of the names or some of the names?
Rocky Rambo. Do you know Rocky Rambo?
Well, I know Rocky Rambo, yeah.
You don't try to Rocky Rambo, do you?
Not much, no. Is that but that's obviously the name that your parents gave you?
Yeah. Keith, I mean.
Huh?
Keith, I mean.
Yeah.
So, well.
Coming up, a marathon interrogation. Cam's reaction when police press for answers. Rocky Rambo Wei Nam Kim has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. A Vancouver couple in their 60s attacked with a knife and hatchet. Will he confess? We return to Romina Dea with For No Reason, the murders of Dianna and Richard.
Sergeant Leah Terpsma, brought in to crack Cam. The veteran interrogator starts off as the good cop.
Hey there. How are you?
Good.
I'm Sergeant Leah Terpsma. It's good to meet you. How are you today? I guess you've had better days.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Well, you're Rocky, are you? What should I call you? Is that the name you like?
Rocky.
Yeah. Okay, I'll play that. Call me Leah, of course.
Cam tells Terpsma he's surprised he's been arrested.
So do you have any understanding of why you're here today? Yeah, what's your understanding of the reason you're here today?
They said I'm under arrest for 2 counts of murder.
Yeah, do you know anything about that?
The name of it.
Do you know those people? No, you don't know them. Okay, good. Well, that's good.
The two break bread, talk about life, a strategy to gain trust. But after 3 hours, Terpsma's patience for pleasantries hits the wall.
Do you know where you were on September 13th?
How do I remember?
I can show you how to remember because I know where you were September 13th. You want to know where you were?
I don't want to talk about it.
You were at the Canadian Tire buying these gloves and buying this hatchet and buying this hat, son. I got you on video doing those things, so I don't want you to sit there thinking this is nothing. I don't have to worry about this. You have to worry about this, Rocky.
Cam munching on a chocolate bar as Terpsma confronts him with another chunk of evidence.
Is there any reason why you'd be driving that woman's car?
I've nothing to say.
Well, would you like an explanation for it, Rocky? Because it's obvious what's happened, and there's just no reason why. This is obviously something that you've thought about for a while, and I don't know why it happened. And I'm super interested in that. I wondered if it was because you felt powerless in the world, or I wondered if it was because you had an axe to grind with that man. There's a reason why this happened, Rocky. Why is it? It can't be just that you said, you know what? I'm going to kill some people today. And it's going to be that guy. Is it? That doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's here, in the interrogation room, Cam learns for the first time the true identity of the young woman he stopped to help that pivotal day outside the grocery store.
Remember being at the grocery store and there was a girl there? She had a sore arm. Remember that? She had her arm in a sling and she couldn't get her bottle open. But that woman with the sore arm, that was a policewoman. What did you do? You did one of these. Remember that? Do you know why you did that for us? Do you know why we had you do that? What do you think?
Nothing to say.
You have something to say?
Nothing to say.
Okay. Well, the reason we had you do that for us, Rocky, was we were looking for your DNA.
The most powerful DNA evidence coming from Ma Jones.
So when Mrs. Ma Jones went for her autopsy and had her fingernails clipped and there was a male DNA profile underneath her nails, well, we just knew we had to get your DNA and see if it matched the DNA under her fingernails. It's irrefutable that your DNA is underneath that woman's fingernails.
A tiny speck of Ma Jones's blood also discovered on the hinge of Cam's glasses.
Oh, she would have fought to the end. She would have, I don't know what his face looked like, but it would have been like he'd been in a cat fight. No, she was ferocious, but only ferocious when she had to be strong, like it was her strength and her toughness.
The fact that she did that and fought and that caused him, likely, I mean, there was other bits of evidence, but I agree that seemed to be a critical piece of evidence. That was good.
She would want to solve this problem. Why? What was this motivation?
So, right? I'll put some things up so that you can see clearly.
The accused appears worried as Terpsma meticulously takes him through the crime scenes.
You know, it's about decision making. It's about power. It's about giving these people's family some idea about why this happened. Don't you think they're owed a little something?
Nothing's waiting. So there's an interesting, for me, it's interesting because in my experience, when you're dealing with someone that's a hardened criminal, you'd expect that kind of behavior. But when you're dealing with someone that has never had any dealings with the police to commit that type of crime, and then to be as closed-mouthed, if you will, in the interview as he was, and despite all the evidence that was presented to him in the interview, he wasn't moved, which is in and of itself is chilling.
After 8 grueling hours, Terpsma moves in to extract a confession.
What do you want to say? You know, Rocky, I can sit there and I can feel that you are feeling something. I can see that you're emotional. Why aren't you taking this chance to at least express remorse? Maybe today you're not ready to talk about the whole ugly story, but at least say you're sorry. For what? For what? You're an animal.
Coming up, the stunning defense that's presented in court. Charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, Rocky Rambo Waynam Cam takes the stand to reveal his side of the story. Here's Romina Dea with the conclusion of For No Reason, the murders of Dianna and Richard.
This is the crux of the defense case. Cam thought he was in a violent video game when he killed the Joneses, 2 innocent strangers, says defense.
This is the only case that I'm aware of where there has been a random killing for no reason.
40 plus years in criminal law, Glenn Orris spends 2 years with Cam preparing for the murder trial. The issue of motive remains unanswered. Why did Cam do this?
Well, if I had an answer to that question, it would have been presented at the trial. You were at the trial. That was a question I asked early on, but there's no answer. He wasn't able to give me an answer.
Is it that he wasn't able to give it to you, or that he wouldn't?
No, I believe, I mean, initially I thought that he's just not being straightforward with me. But I came to believe that he really couldn't. He really couldn't understand why he did this. He never denied that he had been involved in this, and that he'd done this.
The killer testifies he's gaming and reading comic books 12 to 13 hours a day at one point, in isolation, little time left for food and sleep.
The violence associated with them is amazing. I mean, it's extreme. The studies about how gaming affects people and the extent of the gaming affects people are in their infancy. And that they've all found that there's actually a physical change in a person's brain who's addicted to gaming. They don't know how that occurs or what the effect is, but that's the case. It's not really based on science. It's not something that you can actually test and reproduce in a scientific way.
There are millions of people that play violent video games all over the world, and they don't kill people.
I agree. No, I agree. I'm not saying this is the answer. I don't know if it's the answer, and I'm not saying it is the answer. Okay? All I'm saying is that it was the only information I had that suggested an answer. I don't believe that a person who is unaffected by whatever can go into a house and create the chaos and the violence that occurred in this case. There has to be something that conditions you to allow you to do that. I don't believe psychologically a person who is otherwise normal could do that.
No prior history of violence, no drug or alcohol addiction, no diagnosed mental disorder, no unexplained family trauma.
We worked very closely together with all his family, everything from his father, mother, brother, and sister, and we worked very closely with them. Again, trying to get insight into his background and why something like this could possibly happen. There was nothing, and they gave us a lot of information, and they were all completely dumbfounded, as dumbfounded as the rest of us, as to how this could possibly have happened. I mean, we're not dealing here with a psychopathic or a sociopathic personality. That's not the case. He doesn't fit into that at all. The only time that he became quite emotional when dealing with me was that for some reason I had to show him some of the autopsy photographs. And when he looked at the photographs, he actually broke down. And I think that was probably the first time that he actually realized within himself. When I say realized, I mean within himself. What he'd done.
The appropriate verdict, manslaughter, argues Orris.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We start with a long-awaited verdict tonight in the high-profile murder of a Vancouver couple.
Cam found guilty on both counts of first-degree murder. A painful journey for justice for the victims' families who have waited 3 years.
Did you want to comment at all? No.
Ma Jones's family respectfully declines comment, requesting privacy.
I know that they wanted me to say that they were very pleased and impressed with the police.
I'm really pleased that he didn't get off in any way, and he didn't plead insanity.
Madam Justice Laura Giroux ruling Crown proved, beyond a reasonable doubt, the killings of the Joneses were planned and deliberate. Giroux finding Cam's testimony not believable. The gaming theory rejected. No scientific proof. The sentence, life in prison with no eligibility for parole for 25 years.
Well, that's not the result we were hoping for.
Crown fought for a consecutive sentence, no parole eligibility for 50 years.
So it'll be 2042 before he can apply for parole. And as Madam Justice Giroux pointed out, there's no guarantee that he will get parole.
Why do you feel that
Well, it's based on the circumstances of the offense, the nature of the crime, and the lack of an explanation for why Mr. Ken committed these murders.
I don't think we will ever be able to get inside his mind and understand why he did what he did.
The lack of motive is disappointing. It's tragic to think that two lives were needlessly taken for no reason, and a reason that will never make sense to myself or anyone else.
I don't have any hesitation in saying right now that he's probably rehabilitated. I mean, this.
That's a bold statement.
Well, it's based on our discussions, him and I discussing these issues.
Can you expand on it?
Well, I think he's having gone through the process and realized what he's done in reality. He's shocked, upset.
If there's no reason and we still don't understand the why, how is it possible that you don't think that he could do it again at this point?
You're right. Unless we know the reasons why, unless we know the triggers that brought these about, there's no guarantee that it won't happen again. But as far as not wanting this to happen again, or anything like it, if that's rehabilitation, if that's your definition of rehabilitation, he's clearly rehabilitated. He does not want anything like this to ever happen again.
I don't think I have the training or the background to determine whether or not Mr. Cam is rehabilitated now or will ever be rehabilitated. I'm not sure that, with all due respect, Mr. Horace has that training, knowledge. Just from my experience of 29 years as a police officer, seeing what we saw as investigators and the brutal attack, murder of these two innocent senior citizens, I do believe he poses a risk to society.
Cam will be in his early 50s before he's permitted to apply for parole. Will he be released? That's up to the parole board.